Good morning, friends. It is Miss Gallahue here with today's reading lesson. I am so excited about today's lesson because we are going to be reading one of my favorite books. And in this book, a little girl discovers and remembers that her name is perfect. This last week, on our first week of school, we spent some time learning each other's names. You got to learn my name. I got to learn your name. And it's so important we do that when we meet someone new because that helps us to know who they are. And that way, when we see them, we could say hello and call them by their name. So this story is about a very special name, and we're going to read more to find out why. So our read aloud today is called Chrysanthemum. And remember, when we're reading a book, we always want to take a look at the cover. So this is a picture of the cover of our book, and it tells us some information. It tells us the title. It tells us the author, and the pictures give us some clues about what this story is going to be about. So the title of this book is Chrysanthemum. It's kind of a long name, and it's the name of a flower. This is a flower called a chrysanthemum. The author's name is Kevin Henkes. It says by Kevin Henkes. And something really special is that he also drew the pictures in this book. So he wrote the words and he drew the pictures. So let's read our story to find out all about Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum. The day she was born was the happiest day in her parents' lives. "She's perfect," said her mother. "Absolutely," said her father. And she was. She was absolutely perfect. So there is baby Chrysanthemum in her cradle. "Her name must be everything she is," said her mother. "Her name must be absolutely perfect," said her father. And it was. Chrysanthemum. Can you say that name with me? Chrysanthemum. Her parents named her Chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum grew and grew and grew. And when she was old enough to appreciate it, Chrysanthemum loved her name. Think about your name. Do you love your name? I sure hope so. She loved the way it sounded when her mother woke her up. She loved the way it sounded when her father called her for dinner. And she loved the way it sounded when she whispered it to herself in the bathroom mirror. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemum loved the way her name looked when it was written with ink on an envelope. She loved the way it looked when it was written with icing on her birthday cake. And she loved the way it looked when she wrote it herself with a fat orange crayon. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Here we see it on an envelope, her birthday cake, and her orange crayon. Chrysanthemum thought her name was absolutely perfect. And then she started school. On the first day, Chrysanthemum wore her sunniest dress and her brightest smile. She ran all the way. "Hooray," said Chrysanthemum. "School!" But when Mrs. Chudd took roll call, everyone giggled upon hearing Chrysanthemum's name. So here we have some other friends in her class, but they laughed when they heard her name. Why do you think they were laughing? Let's find out. "It's so long," said Joe. "It scarcely fits on your name tag," said Rita, pointing. "I'm named after my grandmother," said Victoria. "You're named after a flower." Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and informed Mrs. Chudd that Chrysanthemum's name was spelled with 13 letters. That's exactly half as many letters as there are in the entire alphabet, Victoria explained. "Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria," said Mrs. Chudd. "Now put your head down." Sounds like people aren't being kind to Chrysanthemum about her name. I wonder how Chrysanthemum is feeling. When I look at this picture here, I see that her head is down. She has a frown on her face. I think she's feeling sad because someone is not making her feel safe in the classroom. She's using hurtful words to hurt Chrysanthemum's feelings. If I had a name like yours, I'd change it, Victoria said, as the students lined up to go home. I wish I could, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. My name is too long, it scarcely fits on my name tag, and I'm named after a flower. Oh, pish, said her mother. Your name is beautiful. And precious and priceless and fascinating and winsome, said her father. It's everything you are, said her mother. Absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt much better after her favorite dinner, macaroni and cheese with ketchup, and an evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed her name was Jane. It was an extremely pleasant dream. So she's thinking she wants to change her name from Chrysanthemum to Jane. Do you think she should change her name? Let's see what else happens. The next morning, Chrysanthemum wore her most comfortable jumper. She walked to school as slowly as she could. She dragged her feet in the dirt. Chrysanthemum, 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 she wrote. She even looks like a flower, said Victoria as Chrysanthemum entered the playground. Let's pick her, said Rita, pointing. Let's smell her, said Joe. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. The rest of the day was not much better. During nap time, Victoria raised her hand and said, A chrysanthemum is a flower. It lives in a garden with worms and other dirty things. Thank you for sharing that with us, Victoria, said Mrs. Chudd. Now put your head down. I just cannot believe your name, Victoria said as the students lined up to go home. Neither can I, thought Chrysanthemum miserably. Welcome home, said her mother. Welcome home, said her father. School is no place for me, said Chrysanthemum. They said I even looked like a flower. They pretended to pick me and they pretended to smell me. Oh, pish, said her mother. They're just jealous. And envious and begrudging and discontented and jaundiced, said her father. Who wouldn't be jealous of a name like yours, said her mother. After all, it's absolutely perfect, said her father. Chrysanthemum felt a trifle better after her favorite dessert, chocolate cake with buttercream frosting, and another evening filled with hugs and kisses and parcheesi. That night, Chrysanthemum dreamed that she really was a chrysanthemum. She sprouted leaves and petals. Victoria picked her and plucked the leaves and petals one by one until there was nothing left but a scrawny stem. It was the worst nightmare of Chrysanthemum's life. Wow, she's really upset. Chrysanthemum wore her outfit with 7 pockets the next morning, and she loaded the pockets with her most prized possessions and her good luck charms. Chrysanthemum took the longest route possible to school. She stopped and stared at each flower. Chrysanthemum, 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 the flowers seemed to say. That morning, the students were introduced to Mrs. Twinkle, the music teacher. Her voice was like something out of a dream, as was everything else about her. The students were speechless. They thought Mrs. Twinkle was an indescribable wonder. They went out of their way to make a nice impression. All the students loved their new music teacher, Mrs. Twinkle. She's got a fun dress on. Mrs. Twinkle led the students in scales. La 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 la. Then she assigned roles for the class musical. Victoria was chosen as the dainty fairy queen. Rita was chosen as the spiffy butterfly princess. Joe was chosen as the all-important pixie messenger, and Chrysanthemum was chosen as a daisy. A daisy is another type of flower. Chrysanthemum's a daisy, chrysanthemum's a daisy, Joe, Rita, and Victoria chanted, thinking it was wildly funny. Chrysanthemum wilted. She did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She thought it was absolutely dreadful. What's so humorous? Asked Mrs. Twinkle. Chrysanthemum was the answer. Her name is so long, said Joe. It scarcely fits on her name tag, says Rita, pointing. I'm named after my grandmother, said Victoria. She's named after a flower. What do you think Mrs. Twinkle is going to say to Joe, Rita, and Victoria, who are being hurtful to Chrysanthemum? I wonder. My name is long, said Mrs. Twinkle. It is, said Joe. My name would scarcely fit on a name tag, said Mrs. Twinkle. It would, said Rita. And, said Mrs. Twinkle, I'm named after a flower too. You are, said Victoria. Yes, said Mrs. Twinkle. My name is Delphinium. Delphinium Twinkle. And if my baby is a girl, I think Chrysanthemum would be an absolutely perfect name. Chrysanthemum could scarcely believe her ears. She blushed, she beamed, she bloomed. Chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum, chrysanthemum. Joe, Rita, and Victoria looked at Chrysanthemum longingly. Call me Marigold, said Joe. I'm Carnation, said Rita, pointing. My name is Lily of the Valley, said Victoria. So those three girls each picked their own flower name. Chrysanthemum did not think her name was absolutely perfect. She knew it. Look, she's skipping home. She is so happy. The end. All done, and we finished our book. Awesome. I love that story, because in that story, Chrysanthemum realizes that her name is perfect, just like all of our names are perfect. So since we're not together, I'm going to ask you a question that I want you to think about by yourself. And if you're with your family or someone in your home with you, maybe you can share your answer with them. So our question says, who helped Chrysanthemum realize that her name is special? Who helped her realize that her name is special? She had some big helpers who reminded her that her name is absolutely perfect, just like all of our names. It's also important to remember that making fun of someone's name because it's different or because we don't know it is really hurtful. Our names are part of who we are, and it's important that we celebrate our beautiful names and get to know more about each other's names. This week, we're going to be talking a lot about names, and I can't wait to learn more about all of yours. So friends, that is the end of our video, but I want to show you what our follow-up work is today. In Google Classroom, you're going to see that we have an activity that looks like this. At the top, you can click on the circle and it will tell you the directions out loud. You'll hear my voice. And it says, click and drag the pictures to retell the story Chrysanthemum. So here they have 4 pictures. And you're going to fill in what happens first, next, then, and last in the right order. So think about which one of these pictures came first, which came next, then, and last. When you're done, make sure you click Turn In on Google Classroom so that your teachers can grade it and see all of your hard work. I am so excited to learn more about your names this week, and we will see you for math class.